Right. Since President Trump took office, the economy has accelerated, unemployment is almost at record lows, wages are finally rising, and the new tax law will provide more money for businesses to expand and taxpayers to spend. Your most important task as governor may be increasing job opportunities, attracting new businesses, and growing Georgia's economy. And how do we accomplish that?
You know, I don't believe that politicians create jobs. They like to say that they do, but really who creates jobs are hardworking, innovative Georgians with great ideas. And what we need to do is free them up. Again, I want to have a more limited and focused government. I think capital is looking to move into different states, and they're looking for environments that are going to attract capital and attract jobs. That's what I want to do for Georgia. I think they're looking at really three things. What's your tax and regulatory environment like? That's why I want to eliminate the Georgia state income tax. They're looking at things like, what's your transportation network like? How do you move goods and services to market? That's why I want to double our investment in transportation without raising taxes. And finally, they're looking at, do you have the workforce that's prepared and willing and able to take on the jobs that we, the businesses, are going to be bringing here? And so that's where we want to continue the work of our college and career academies, technical colleges. 75% of the jobs that are available in the marketplace now don't require a 4-year degree, but we do have to have a solid K-12 environment where people have a high school degree and can go out and compete. That's why I want to elevate K-12 education, and the way that we're going to do that is by empowering families with the resources that we're already spending on K-12, and let that free market principle of competition elevate all boats in K-12. We have outstanding options in private school and charter school, and I want to expand those options for our people. And I believe that will elevate the traditional K-12 model. Finally, you know, when you're talking about economic development, there's been a tradition of career politicians really wanting to go out and buy industry to come here. I think if you create that fair and predictable marketplace, a low income, no income tax, elevate transportation and education, we'll see investment coming here and jobs coming here without the purview of government. I think it's a more limited government approach, and that's my approach for economic development.
Well, for somebody that's been in the private sector for a long time, I have created jobs. You know, we're still creating or keeping jobs in existing businesses that I have, so I certainly understand the private sector. I mean, I first ran for office literally for the state senate because I was a frustrated small business owner, tired of the Democrats and government regulations, high taxes, big government policies, and quite honestly, we had a liberal Democrat that beat our old kind of middle of the road Democrat that was in the state senate, and I just got so fed up I ran against him in a district that really nobody thought I would win. And I still have that same view, which is why I'm running for governor, is to put Georgians first ahead of the special interests, the status quo, the politically correct, and those that are here illegally. But part of our conservative, or my conservative 4-point plan, is to really fundamentally reform how state government spends, operates, and taxes. And also to make Georgia #1 for small business, building off of what Governor Deal has done to get us to where we're the #1 state for business 5 years in a row. We do that by cutting government regulations. I've got a great track record of doing that in the Secretary of State's office, streamlining government. We need to do that for the whole executive branch, and then we need to implement a spending cap. There will be some people that talk to you today that will take credit for the tax decrease or that just passed in Georgia, but let's be real, that's because Donald J. Trump pushed tax reform through Washington, D.C., and now we're helping the state, and I applaud the efforts of the governor and others to lower the tax rate so we can offset the windfall the state's going to be. But if that hadn't happened, I doubt anything would be happening. And that's why my plan, our conservative 4-point plan, is to implement the spending cap tied to population and inflation, so we budget conservatively, and then we do tax reform for everyone, not the special interest.
So 2 or 3 things. First of all, let's talk about what I think is the right income tax rate for Georgia. Governor Deal and Governor Perdue oversaw something like a $3 billion reduction in the government when they had to during a recession. Go back to my Joseph story. What would happen if we did something like that while we're cash flush? That's how you get income tax below 4% and have more monies for 3rd grade teachers and roads. And I'd love to get a question on how we do that, because I've got 2 specific ideas I don't think you've heard from anyone else that are both big. Now, I'm not a person who thinks income tax in Georgia could be 0% with an apples to apples. The analysis I've seen that put sales tax at 15 or 16%. Go tell someone who buys milk, bread, and eggs how they're going to pay 15, 16% on milk, bread, and eggs. But I do believe we could get it below 4. So that's number one. Number two is you get better at selling when you've been at the table on the buying end of that transaction, okay? And I have spent my career working with CEOs, even our own business, helping make these strategic decisions on where business operations should go, putting together those sorts of economic incentive packages. So as someone that's run a very large business, I'll be bringing the most executive management skill to that office compared certainly to any of my opponents, probably anyone that's ever had the office in Georgia. And I literally have been part of those things. So I think it's pretty safe to say that I'll bring a higher level compared to my opponents when it comes to negotiating on behalf of the taxpayer in Georgia, bringing those companies, and not just bringing jobs in, but inviting companies to start their industries here. Our message ought not to be, here's your money, please bring your 10,000 jobs. It should be, how do I make my state, our state, a sandbox for you to prove out your new industry models and build that innovation here? For example, we should be marketing Fort McPherson to an Amazon and talking about how that's a self-contained bubble where they can prove autonomous driving, drone delivery. That's what we need to have as an Atlanta and a Georgia that's a sandbox where the pharmaceutical companies come to take healthcare up for a cost down, and technology companies do the same thing. That's a different, I think, mindset and a different approach I can bring.
So this will give me a little opportunity to expound a little more on education, because having an educated workforce.
There is a question on education too, so in case you want to get into something else.
I'm a politician, I can move. But the workforce component is by far the biggest issue that confronts us as a state. Every corporation that I sit down with and talk about locating here or existing companies that want to expand, we talk about incentives. Certainly that is a piece of the puzzle. But the biggest issue that is on their mind is, how can you guarantee me the workforce that I'm going to need? And the reality is, it's not all a liberal arts degree that they need. We've got to focus in making certain that we are providing the dental hygienists, the radiology technicians, the culinary arts, all of these career fields that literally leave or have the potential of making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. And for too long, we've had a one-size-fits-all educational system that says we're going to send all of our kids off to get a 4-year degree. And we've left a huge vacuum. And industry is being crippled as a result of that. That's why I created the College and Career Academy. So now these kids are getting the skills that they need, and they're finding their passion on the front end as they are able to explore the 20 or 30 different career fields that are available to them. That's the future. That's the future, is building a workforce where education is aligned with industry needs. When you have that pipeline of workers, every single existing business will thrive and be successful. And making sure that we have a low-tax environment, and as you articulated, the President did a wonderful job, in my estimation, with the tax cut, and we have followed suit with a $5.7 billion tax cut, which is a $1 billion net tax advantage to the citizens of our state.
First of all, I do not believe in tax credits. I don't believe the government needs to be the one picking winners and losers. I was the first of the candidates that came out very strongly against the packages that are being offered to Amazon. I would love for Amazon to come to Georgia, but not because we're giving them billions of dollars, but because they want to be a part of what Georgia has to offer. We don't know what the package is that Nathan Dill has offered to Amazon. That's a problem in of itself, the fact that it's not open to the public. But what I do know is that New Jersey has offered $7 billion. There's been reports where Amazon's looking for $9 to $11 billion. That's $200,000 a job. That's not a really good investment from my book. It's about a 100-year payback. And then they talk about it's going to create 50,000 jobs. Do you think Amazon has an opening for 50,000 jobs right now? No. They're already employed. They're going to bring those employees to our state. Now, who's going to pay for the roads we just talked about they're going to be traveling on? Who's going to pay for the schools their kids are going to. It's not gonna be Amazon, it's not gonna be those employees because they're getting tax breaks. It's gonna be us that are currently here. What we have to do to attract business is create an environment in which all business flourishes. Eliminate the state income tax. We have some archaic regulations on our book that stifle small business growth. There's a guy in Forsyth County right now. He has $10 million. He wants to invest it into the economy. He went to go get a business license. He figured out a way to age whiskey a little bit faster. He couldn't get it because his wife owns a bar. We have it's called a 3-tier system here in Georgia where you produce alcohol, you can't sell it. Department of Revenue told him if you wanted a business license, he had to divorce his wife. That should never be the prerequisite to get a business license. We need to create an environment where business thrives.
All right.